What's up, and welcome to the Fantasy League Show. My name is Mitch, and the handsome man in red is Chris, and we are going to be breaking down the top mid laners for your fantasy week for the LCS and LEC. What do you say, Chris? We get into it?
I think it's let's go. Let's
Let's
go.
do it. Let's do it. Hit that intro slide. All right, why don't we start off with the folks in the LCS? Let's kick it off with Jizuke. Chris, tell me a little bit about Jizuke's week. How's he doing? We got him ranked in the
All right.
A tier.
So let me talk about Jizuke a little bit.
Please,
So
by all means.
so listen, guys.
Floor
All
is
right.
yours.
Jizuke is I would argue is the most important piece of actually EG as a whole. This is a player where they feed their resources into. They want him to carry games. He is one of the most pop-off players in the LCS.
Mhm.
And the thing is, he's also a great mid laner that takes advantage of weaker mid laners. So this week, he is playing against the teams of 100 Thieves, Immortals, and I believe it is Dignitas.
Mhm.
So my thing is, when you look at those matchups, you're looking at Soligo, you're looking at Demonte, and you're looking at Insanity.
Uh-huh.
I think Jizuke is way better than all three of those mid laners because I think people
Yeah.
might argue that Demonte's better, but he's not mechanically better. He's a better team player. If you're talking about mechanical skill, Jizuke is the player you want this week.
So
And
we're
I think that,
thinking a lot of solo kills from Jizuke.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
definitely,
Dive
100.
under tower. Yeah, and
Yeah,
actually, sorry to interject here. I just do want to share that you had said this, but yeah, Jizuke's kill percentage is about 25%, meaning he is about 25% likely to actually come up with the kill whenever his team gets a kill. So that was a good observation there, Chris.
so overall, definitely think this is a player you want to have on your team this week. We have him in the end of A tier, if I'm
Yeah, just
correct.
about. Yeah.
Yeah, so overall, this is a player you definitely want to be starting this week. Definitely is going to be a player that really takes it to the other mid laners in this league. Um, and just overall, I think he's going to do solid and definitely should be a start.
You got it. Now let's get into one of his opponents for the week. Let's talk about Insanity, the guy who you keep calling Linsanity, which is a Jeremy Lin thing, right? Yeah, no, that's what that is.
Yes.
Different guy. Yeah, no, they're pretty similar. They might even know each other. All right, Insanity. We're actually this is kind of strange because where you drafted Insanity, you would have not expected us to put him in the B tier. I'm a little bit more favorable on Insanity this week than you might be, Chris, and I will tell you why. CLG. Insanity's but no, that's not the only reason. Insanity's actually been doing all right in terms of mid lane performances. He averages about 22.5 points per game. Double that. That's what you get per week. We are talking in standard draft buff scoring. So keep that in mind. CLG is one of his opponents this week, and they give up on average 30 points to the mid lane position. Incredibly high. EG gives up about 25 points to the mid lane, and FlyQuest gives up about 26.7 points to the mid lane. What I do want to highlight is the fact that even though Insanity might not be solo killing Jizuke, my god, the way Jizuke plays, if he kills Insanity 6 times, he will probably die 4 times, and just the way things work, deaths are worth way, way, way less than kills are, or actually they have less of an impact to your overall fantasy production. So even if that game's really bloody, that's awesome for all parties involved. I think that Insanity does a great week. These are like really good matchups, and I think that he's been showing up. Immortals definitely has a tendency to beat some of the lower tier teams. I'm looking forward to it, Chris. Good flex play for this week.
I think that sums it up pretty well.
Sweet, and I always forget to mention this, but I really want to. What you see on your screen is everyone's already pre-filled for C and D. These are the people that you don't necessarily want to start. We just want to have them up for visibility, just in case you were kind of curious as to where some of the other players ranked. With that said, S, A, and B are the tier slots that you actually want to start in. B is likely going to be that tier where you're going to find yourself flexing a lot of players. So keep that in mind as we continue, and let's get into someone else who's in the B tier. That's Power of Evil. Chris, tell me about your favorite mid on your favorite team. Or not.
So all right, so listen, the meme of TSM, man, I just don't like them, but I admit when they're good. Listen,
Right now.
PoE, PoE, Hey man, they're good. Don't jinx them, all right?
Alright.
Please. I have enough pain there. Anyways, so they're this week they are facing Dignitas, 100 Thieves, and Cloud9. And when you look at a person like PoE and you look at those matchups, you could be like, "Oh, these are hard matchups. This is a hard week. TSM might not do so hot." I beg to differ. I actually think that PoE is a better mid laner than both Soligo and is a better mid laner than
Yeah.
Damonte.
Hard
And I
agree.
think
Hard agree.
he's a better carry player. I think he's a more important part of his team. And I think that in those matchups, I think he can really abuse the other mid laner.
Yeah.
So going off of that, I actually think that overall that these games are going to be longer because I think TSM has a very good track record of being able to mitigate advantages. And I think specifically PoE is a big part of that. And when you get these long drawn out games, not only will you have like random skirmishes all over the place, but you get a lot of CS. And the overall thing is like PoE farms a lot. So overall, even if it's like 200, 300, that starts adding up to a few fantasy points per game.
It's an excellent
So
point.
definitely something you should keep an eye on. And my thing is overall PoE versus, like I said before, Demonte and Soligo, I actually think he's gonna win because he is a better control mage player than both those other players. And the other two players like to play through their jungle. With Closer and with Dardoch. And I think if PoE can just play it safe a little bit, I think he is going to maul the rest of the team. Cloud9, that's a little shaky, but I'm a big fan
Yeah.
of PoE going this week.
So long as you hit 2 out of those 3 games, that's really what you're looking for. You can't ask for much more than that. And yeah, no, great points, Chris. Let's talk about our friend, the role player. such a poor classification. Let's talk about Damonte. Let me throw him up on the tier list. Throw him in B. I always forget to put people in the tier list as I introduce them. Remember this time, Damonte has an excellent week. And it's funny because I feel as though every time I talk about one of the players, you always preface my introduction to the player with who their opponent is. Damonte's playing EG, Damonte is playing TSM, Damonte's playing Golden Guardians. Not the most difficult matchups. With that said, I think that everything that you said about PoE and Jizuke holds true. What I want to push a little bit further is the fact that a bloody and long game works well for all parties involved. And when I say all, I mean all of them who might not be like the Tom Kench on the team that is losing those team fights. That's the one guy who doesn't get a lot of fantasy points. But I think that 100 Thieves, they are on average having incredibly bloody games. Damonte's been scoring really well. You could see it in his points, 25 points per game. I think that EG and TSM are going to take 100 Thieves to the limit, maybe win, maybe lose. No matter what, they're gonna be long games. You drafted Damonte to start him. He's done nothing but meet your expectations and exceed them. And I think that if he doesn't even necessarily do that for those 2 games, the game against Golden Guardians, I can't see a universe in which 100 Thieves loses to GG again. I think that this is going to be a nice revenge game for that squad. Golden Guardians has given up about 30 points to the mid lane position on average, and I think that Damonte is going to eat all of that up. I'm looking forward to it. We got him in the B tier. That's at worst a flex consideration, but I personally have him a little bit higher. I would be confident in starting him. Chris, I am going to give you the honors of talking about someone, our first player in the S tier. Let's speed run this. Let's go, Chris. Ready? 3, 2, 1. C9 perks. Tell me about him.
Dude, you have perks. You drafted him early. You're playing him.
You're playing him.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it, guys. Come on.
Yeah. You're absolutely playing him. The only way you aren't playing him is if you didn't draft him. You already know he's been stellar. We don't even have to talk about the matchups unless you want to hear us hype them up. I'm excited. TL, TSM, FlyQuest. Some good points coming out of that FlyQuest game, and Team Liquid and TSM could be just really awesome bouts between both teams. So I'm looking forward to it. You're starting perks. We don't have to belabor the point. In light of that, TL Jensen. I always find myself talking about Team Liquid and the slump that they've been in and how they've kind of been underperforming their ADP, average draft position. With that said, you're still going to start Jensen. Chris, are there any points that you want to bring up as to why you expect Jensen to have a better or worse week than what you've seen from him in the past couple of weeks?
So that's the thing. I actually think specifically Jensen has really been starting to actually improve. I
Okay.
think while the rest of the team looks a little shaky at times, tactical, Santorin, um, but I think Jensen, who started off shaky this split, has actually really started to come into a groove. I actually remember him having like a crazy Oriana game, like 5-1 and like 14, I think last week, or maybe in the week before, where I think against like C9 or something, where
Switching
he
on
really
C.
popped off. So like I definitely think that Jensen is really starting to come into his field. I think he just needed some time. And I would actually say that right now, I think Jensen is probably the best performing player on TL, and probably the player you want the most.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's a great point too. Yeah, he's a stellar player. I will actually maybe challenge you a little bit. I don't know if he's necessarily the one that you want personally. I am partial to Alfari. I think he's like probably the best top laner we've seen in a long time. With that said, I actually do want to mention one thing. In the same way, in fantasy football, you should never ever start a New York Jet just because they're the Jets. You know what's going to happen no matter who it is. If your player is playing CLG, you start that player, all right? Locked and loaded. That's my 100% guarantee. I don't care who they are. You're starting them. Let's get into, on that note, the starting mid laner for CLG. Let's talk about Pobelter. Chris, why don't you tell me about it?
So for Pole Belter, we have him in between B and C, literally the top of the number one of C.
What should I do? C or
Um,
B? What do you think?
I want to say C only
Okay,
because we don't have enough games on him yet.
that's a
Because
good
if you
point.
guys remember, RJS was in the team for the last, I think, 3 to 4 weeks,
Yeah.
as well as we also just got Broxa, I believe, a week or two ago. So with all those changes really happening, we really don't know what the CLG lineup is going to look like this week fully, where we have Poe Belter, Broxa, Finn, Wild Turtle, and Smoothie. This
Mm-hmm.
is the roster that was hyped up by CLG at the beginning. I'm still a little uncertain. I think he's going to do all right, but I need another week to see where he's going to
Yeah.
stand.
Good points. If you're in a 10-man league, I don't think that he's the worst flex play in the world. I think that his matchups are okay. I like the FlyQuest game. I think that COG could surprise some people and beat Immortals. Not so favorable on that Team Liquid matchup. If you're in an 8-person league, you might want to consider benching him. That's really what the definition of C tier is. With that said, he's on the cusp. Good call, Chris. Let's talk about someone who is in a much better spot, and no one drafted him to be an A tier. So good for you if you managed to pick him up, whether it was on the waiver wires or you knew something good was coming. We have Soligo. He is playing TSM, Golden Guardians, and EG. I feel like what is every team playing TSM and EG, or maybe just the ones that I'm talking about. But
Basically,
I love these matchups. I really love them. I have him at 7 right now. You have him maybe a couple spots lower, Chris. I think that this is an amazing Dignitas week for the entire team. All of those 3 teams that I just mentioned give up a lot of points to the mid lane. They're bloody teams, EG especially. The games go very long. Even if teams like Golden Guardians start out with a win, you know that there's a good chance that they won't hold on to it, which just means it's going to give Soligo more and more time to come back and rack up more fantasy points. The longer these games are, the more CS, and those are weighted very heavily. I think Soligo's play has been really strong too. I think Dignitas has been great. I think Afromoo has been great. I don't have enough good things to say. I'm just very happy for you if you managed to pick this guy up halfway through the league. I didn't really talk about too many hard-hitting facts. Let's see if I could throw a stat in there. Kill participation 60%, kill percentage 18, whatever. You're starting him. He's been great. You don't want to bench him. Ride that hot hand, everyone. Let's talk about Misfits Vitheo. What do you say, Chris? Let's talk about some LEC.
yeah, I think that's a good segue.
All
So
right.
for Vithio, a big thing for me is
Vitheo?
funny.
Vitheo? Did I
It's actually it's Vithio.
did I is it? Are you
Yeah,
sure?
yeah, it's
All right,
Vithio.
I'll take your word for it, but I have
All right.
also heard you be confidently wrong before. All right, whatever.
All right. So Vithio. So the thing about Vithio overall is I actually have been really high on him. I think that right now a big problem just talking about Misfits is they're a very boomer bust team. I think if Mitch is going to tell you the exact stat, I think all of them
Rival.
have extremely high variance in points.
Yep.
So overall, this team loves to just score well on some weeks and then just completely boom out, right? So the
You
big
got
thing
it.
about Vithio this week is Vithio is playing against Astralis, and he is also playing against, I
G2.
believe it's G2.
You got it.
So when you look at it, so Astralis is, what is it? They're dropping like 29.15 points. Come on, guys, like that's so many points. And also for a boom or bust team like Misfits, dude, that 29 points could turn into like 40 points, to be honest with you
Yeah.
guys, because with especially with how Misfits play. And the thing is, G2 Esports gives up almost 20 points as well. So if you think about it, and especially when G2 likes to play these bloodier games and they're maybe not as clean, and with Misfits loving to just fight, you're going to see a really good week from him. And that's actually why we have him rated at the top of B tier. This is definitely a player that maybe like you got him in your bench, or maybe like he's on the waivers. Pick him up this week. This is a man you should definitely try to start in a flex spot if you got one open. He is going to score a bajillion points this week, in my opinion. And I think this is definitely someone you want to start.
Good call, especially if you are playing one of your tougher opponents. I say this for every Misfits player, but you always want to start those Misfits guys if you think that you're fighting an uphill battle, because they could be the exact player to put you over the edge with that boom or bust type of deal. All right, let's get into Niski in the A tier. He has been a player that has not lived up to the Niski of the beginning of the split over these past few weeks. And what I mean by that is he has really underperformed. You might be a little bit shaky. With that said, I am here to reassure you that he sits in the A tier. Chris has him ranked at number 4, so he is Niski's #1 fan this week, and I'll tell you why. Niski still is averaging a ridiculously high amount of fantasy points per week, about 26 points. About 26 points per game. He's playing Excel. He's playing SK. I don't expect him to lose to Excel. I think that he's going to score a ton of points against Checolad. If they lock in Seraphine, he's not necessarily going to solo kill Checolad, but that's fine. It's totally fine to go 0-2 and 17 as Niski. I'm alright with that. He's also playing SK Gaming, which, I mean, riding off of Treats' amazing engages, this team has been pretty good. I still think that this is a team that could lose to Fnatic. I think that Fnatic has a lot to prove. They've lost a lot of games over the past 2 weeks, maybe 3. I might be wrong there, but at least 2. And I think the Fnatic wants to say, hey, remember us, we're definitely in contention for a top 3, top 2 team. And I think that this is the week where they really shut up a lot of doubters. And I think that you have no reason to do anything with Niski but start him. Even if you're in an 8-man league and you want to throw him on your bench because you got someone else, I like him. I think he's great this week. He's awesome matchups. Sound good to you?
Sums it up well, 100%.
All right. Highly contentious player among those of us in this Discord call right now. Chris, you're very high on Humanoid. I'm not so much. Tell me why you love him.
So here's the thing. Humanoid is playing against FC Shulk and Rogue. And big things is those teams, I understand, don't like to give out a lot of points. Rogue is the second best team in the league by far, and is probably the cleanest team in the league when they are winning. So the issue with Rogue is definitely like he probably won't score as high in that matchup. But a big thing that I have started to really see of like the old Mad Lions is where this team is really looking for kills. They're very aggressive, very hungry, and Humanoid is a big part of that with Armut. And I think those two have been really doing a bang-up job in the last. Yeah, especially Elyoya as well. He had that pop-off King game, but other than that, he's still been having great games. But overall, Humanoid has really been popping off, doing what he can. The only liability in this team and Humanoid is that hopefully Karzi does not end his games. But other than that, I literally think that Humanoid he's a great mid laner going against FC Shulk. Even if they're not giving up points, I assume that with how many points that usually Mad Lions likes to get, with how bloody they are, they'll still score something. And I think the Rogue game, they might, because with them improving, they might be able to drag Rogue into some skirmishes and stuff like that and score more points than you think, actually. So I actually have him rated pretty high this week because I also think this is the time for Mad Lions to really show that they are either the third or fourth best team in the league and really start pulling people down to their level in certain ways.
Okay, that's fair. I know we are running up on time, so I'll make this one kind of quick. I think that Rogue is going to win relatively clean. With that said, I will extend the olive branch and say that if Humanoid and Mad Lions are able to beat FC Schalke in a very dirty and bloody way, those could be the points that you actually need for your entire week. Mad Lions is definitely the team to give you that entire basket of fantasy points just in one game, so it really might not even matter what happens in Rogue, but keep your eye out on him. I'd consider him a good flex. Chris is a little bit higher. With that said, let's get into someone who's not a flex. Chris, speed run for me, would you? Larson.
You're starting him. That's it.
The hesitation made me think like, oh shoot, did he really want to like get into something there? Yeah, you're starting him. Even though he's G2, right? You're still starting him.
Yeah.
They could win that game. I think that they might even win that game. G2, isn't a perfect team, at least not yet in the regular season. I think Larson might be pretty solid this week. Might be pretty solid. I also like that Bad Lions game for all of the points that you had just mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Chris, do you want, the next two players. Do you want the final one or do you want the next one? Next one's Abadage.
Abadage. Okay.
Do you want this one or you want the next one?
Yeah. So I'll throw around with Abadage. So,
all right, go for
it. Big thing about Abadage this week is Abadage is playing Mad Lions and Astralis.
Mm-hmm.
We have him at the end of B tier. The reason for that is FC Schalke, Abadage, all the players, they haven't looked as solid. But here, this week, they got Mad Lions and Astralis.
Oh, yeah,
two of the teams that just super bloody. It's going to be a whole bunch of kills. So this man could literally pop up. The issue is we haven't seen that consistency from FC Schalke where they could just straight up lose both these games. So I think this is a very, very hit or miss week for Abadage and the rest of SO4 players, because when you look at the idea of Abadage versus like Magi Felix and versus like Humanoid, these players love to fight. And the thing is, overall, Astralis has looked better in recent weeks while FC Schalke has not. And honestly, I think Magi Felix was a great addition to the team, and he could lose. But at the same point, I also think no matter what, it's going to be tons of kills. And I think that's going to be huge. And I think this is a player you should consider as a possible flex.
So, do you remember how Jizuke had a 25% kill percentage? Abadage beats him. He's at 30%. He is taking a lot of those kills. So I'm looking forward to this. I think that he could have a nice little comeback type of game. Chris, I gave you the last one. I'm going to do it. I'm going to... actually, I think we have like 5 or 6, 7, 8 minutes left. I might just talk about Caps for the entire time. Does that sound good? Or?
Yeah, I think that sounds right. I think that sounds right.
Caps is in the S tier. You're going to start him. Don't be afraid of Rogue. Rogue, you shouldn't be afraid of G2. If you have Larson, if you have Caps, you're starting them both. One of them has Misfits, the other has Mad Lions. You like those matchups. And then be comfortable with your player. You drafted him for a reason. I really think that these games could be bloody. That last Rogue game against G2 went long, so be confident in your guy. He's the man for a reason. And Chris, that's all the mid laners we have. What do you say? Go on to the next role.
Sounds great. Yeah, we can start going to jungle, right? Jungle's our next role.
Sounds good. Thanks everyone for watching. Make sure to check out the other related videos. We like to put out a video on each role per week, so check out the rest of those, and don't forget to subscribe, and also leave some comments, leave some feedback. I'm just ad-libbing. Chris, what else do people say?
Yo,
to do? Yeah,
hit that like button, guys.
Hit the like button. Yeah, that's right. No, that's
that like
Chris.
button.
Yeah. Hit the like button. Helps with that YouTube algorithm, or I don't know.
Yeah,
that's what they said.
Come on, guys. We got to get us like our gold players out of gold, man. This is how you do it. This is how you do it. Like that button. That button.
How does that do it? I
don't know how it puts the power of the people behind us. All right, Mitch. Yeah, exactly. It puts
the power of the people behind. All right. Well, hold on.
Yes.
Chris is the one who's gold, by the way. I'm diamond 2. No, I'm not. I'm unranked. I'm even worse. But don't let that discredit us. Let me actually say this.
We're getting plat this season, boys.
Chris and I, we love fantasy. We love fantasy league, fantasy football. We have just been chopping it up about fantasy league since Riot Games had their own fantasy platform online. We love this. We have a ton of calculations that go into the back end of everything that you hear come out of our mouths. So just know it's solidified in good thought. We appreciate you following us. We appreciate your subscription, all of that. Definitely give some feedback. Always good to hear constructive feedback. This is going long. We're going on forever. Chris, what do you say? Junglers? Let's do junglers.
Let's go.
Let's get it.